You're listening to 99.1 WQRT LP, and welcome to Radio Free Book Club for February 2026. I'm Ken Honeywell. I'm a writer and reader from Indianapolis, and this month we're heading all the way back to 1961 to New Orleans and its suburbs and beyond as we accompany young John Binx Bolling, known to his friends and relations as Binx, in his search for, well, that is really the question in The Moviegoer, Walker Percy's debut novel from 1961. Percy was 41 when The Moviegoer was published, to little notice or acclaim, until it caught the attention of novelist Gene Stafford, who was a judge for the National Book Awards that year. The competition included J.D. Salinger's Franny and Zooey, Joseph Heller's Catch-22. The Moviegoer was never formally nominated, but it won the 1961 National Book Award. Since that time, The Moviegoer's place on the list of great American novels of the 20th century has become pretty secure. I'm thrilled we have such a great crew of club members to talk about it today, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves right now, starting with Susan. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Ken. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How
Good.
are you?
I'm pretty good, thanks. I'm Susan Neville, a writer and retired teacher, and that's me.
Yeah, you're one of the best readers and writers we know, so we're just so happy that you're here.
That's very kind of you.
Speaking of great readers and writers, hello, Dan.
Hello, Ken. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good.
We're having this little Midwestern repast here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. I'm Dan Barden. I'm a writer and a teacher and a lapsed Catholic, which is pertinent to this conversation.
I didn't know that.
That will come in very handy
That
for
will.
our discussion. And last but not least, hello, Anne.
Hi, Ken, Dan, and Susan. I am also a former Catholic.
Okay.
After going to a women's college run by nuns, I renounced my Catholicism. But today I'm a grant writer, a diary keeper, and a moviegoer.
Yeah, you have your own excellent podcast on WQRT. What is that called?
Flick Fix.
Nice.
And you're going to be my next guest.
All right. I can't wait for it. Well, thanks, Anne. Thanks, everybody. And now, before we get talking about the book, you should know we're going to spoil it early and often. The Moviegoer came out in 1961, so you might just want to listen anyway. But if you don't want to hear the spoilers, you can come back after you've read the book, because now you can find this and all the episodes of Radio Free Book Club on Spotify, just about anywhere you stream podcasts. But here's an idea. Go to WQRT.org, where you can find links to the whole Radio Free Book Club library and lots of other great shows like FlixFix. We also hope you'll subscribe to our free Radio Free Book Club Substack for non-spoiler notes about the book, including whether or not we'd recommend it. And so, yeah, let's go. So just a little bit of background before we start talking about The Moviegoer on why we're talking about it. Last summer, I asked Susan if there was a classic novel she'd like to discuss, and because she's Susan Neville, she gave me a whole list of novels she'd like to discuss. We decided on Lolita, and we had a great discussion that also included Dan and Anne. And over the course of that show, Dan mentioned that his favorite novel was The Moviegoer. And I'd been thinking about doing more classic novels for the Radio Free Book Club. So here we are again. But before Dan tells us why this is his favorite novel, let's talk for a minute about Walker Percy. How familiar are we all with Walker Percy? And have you all read The Moviegoer before, Susan?
I read The Moviegoer probably in the 70s. Around the time I was reading Fred Exley. I associate, Fred, for whatever reason, and other Southern novelists. And but I hadn't thought of it really or read it again till now. Yeah. And I couldn't really remember it as I was reading it.
And other Walker Percy, have you read other of his
I've read
novels? Or?
Some of his essays.
Yeah. Anne, how about you?
I'm coming in cold. This is
All
my
right.
first Walker Percy experience.
this is not my first Walker Percy experience, but the Moviegoer is my only Walker Percy experience. I know I read it at least a couple of times in the past, and I've just read it a couple of times for this as well. But I have not read any other Walker Percy. Dan, I think you probably have read other Walker Percy.
Yeah. I've read the entire Walker Percy oeuvre. Not in a long time. I haven't read him probably in 15, 20 years. Or I read this book 10 years ago. For me, I mean, I can't speak about, the breadth of American literature. I'm just not that well read. But for me, it's the novel that made sense of all the novels that came after it. And that there were a lot of novelists in the 50s and the early 60s that I couldn't become interested in, or that I was interested in a kind of technical way. And it's like, I appreciate Updike and I appreciate Roth and, and Mary McCarthy and all that stuff, but none of it really rang my bell. And when I read this novel at 15, it really rang my bell. I mean, it was just like, I just remember a world opening up to me of a novel that was really took seriously spiritual and philosophical questions that I didn't know you could deal with in a novel. And I read, like within the next 5 years, I read everything that he wrote, and I wrote fan letters to him, and got a note back from him at one point when I was in graduate school, and went to his funeral.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And because it was in New York and I could go to it. And I mean, for me, it just speaks to the mystery of being alive. And that probably has something to do with the Catholicism in my DNA. And it also speaks to the mystery of being an American.
And so has the novel influenced your writing, Dan?
I'm always trying to write this novel. I mean, I just always wanted to, write a novel that, justifies the ways of God to man. And I think that was in some ways Percy's enterprise. Although reading it this time, I mean, it's such a complicated enterprise. And it's like, I'm almost, like really like open to people that don't see these things in this book as deeply as I do, because it's a weird book.
It is a weird book
It
for
is.
sure. It is. There's not much plot to it, and it takes a little while for the plot to get going. But Binx Bolling is a very compelling character. What makes him so interesting?
Oh yeah, are you asking me?
I'm asking anybody who'd like to answer.
What makes him?
Do you guys find him interesting?
Oh, I think it's Dan. I just want to say I think it's an incredible book.
Yeah.
I'm sure I didn't understand it when I was in my 30s. Or
I'm not sure I
20s.
understood it when I was in my 40s. So.
Yeah, no. I mean, at the same time, I was kind of reading Kierkegaard, and I didn't understand Kierkegaard either. So, what amazes me is that it changed your life when you were 15.
Yeah, me too.
And the line about it justifying the ways of God to man. Did you actually feel that when you were reading it when you were so young, or did you understand it?
I mean, I had a complicated relationship with it in that I didn't understand it when I was 15. Mm-hmm. Like I was very much on board with Binx's enterprise. Mm-hmm. And it was only when I read it again in my 30s that I was like, oh, he's crazy. I mean, he doesn't really understand anything until the end of the book, when he understands very little. And so, and it reminded me a lot of my relationship with Stephen Dedalus in Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, where I thought, yay, Stephen Dedalus. And then I got into my 30s and I was like, dick. You know what I mean? And but the novels, both of those novels, still. I mean, this one more because I see that Percy doesn't endorse Binx's enterprise. He sees Binx as lost, but Binx is, even now, Binx is lost in such a charismatic and wonderful way. And I think that it's really easy to forgive him because he's basically lost the way that everyone's lost.
Does he
Oh,
know
he
he's
is.
lost?
He's charming and he's funny
Yeah.
and he's smart. And, those scenes where he stops and notices everything. My first response to that, even reading it this time, because I'm thinking more of like Flannery O'Connor or, I think, oh, so he is actually seeing the infinite in the particular. And then as I got to the end of the book, I was so confused. Like, what, wait, it's so gray now, and then I'm thinking, that's the difference between a kind of Catholicism, which is, there's magic everywhere, or maybe what a Protestant would think Catholicism is, that you see a burning bush and it's literally a burning bush and literally God. So yeah, it really, even reading it now, it kind of blew my mind to go back to something I would have said when I was actually in my 30s. So,
Well, I feel like we work so hard to follow him and understand the patterns of his mind and see things as he does, and it's a winding road, and its end is strange. I actually just finished the book this morning at around 7 a.m. And so I'm still processing the end, but the journey is filled with surrealism. I mean, is a word that I'm daring to suggest in terms of how I feel like he leaves out a lot, which is why it's so beautiful.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. It also feels so prophetic. I mean, at the time, it's like everything's mediated through movies or film. And now everything's mediated through everything. So how can you know what's real and how can you grow up? And so I don't know. It's an amazing book, Dan. Thanks for recommending it.
Dan, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was going to ask questions. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
please.
so first, Susan, so what, when you talked about it being the grayness that it ended with, and that was surprising to you, can you say more about that?
Yeah, maybe you have the same feeling. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's the sense that, okay, he's been like a 30-year-old kid. He wants to be the hero of his life, and he wants to narrate his life, and and he, notices things, and he's smart, and he, and then all of a sudden the ending is he's going to marry the woman, not anyone that he's making that choice, and he's going to, stay a stockbroker.
Well, he's going to medical school.
Oh, medical school.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right. Sorry. Yeah, he's going to medical school.
But he seems like he's still taking care of the business.
Yeah, he's still taking care of the business, and even what did Kierkegaard to say? Something like, if you see the real knight of faith, it's probably going to be a stockbroker who's like involved in daily life and knows that your commitment to family, to ritual, even when you don't understand things, is a sacrament. And if you were young, that sounds really depressing, doesn't it? I mean, it's like, life should be really exciting and an adventure, like the romantic on the bus who's going down to New Orleans and thinking everything's going to be like a movie. And
But it was. He was sleeping with all these women.
Oh, I know,
And he had
he
a nice
was.
car and all, yeah.
he actually, did. It was like a movie, and he yeah, and he was constantly, I love how he's constantly noticing that he's like, I don't know, Gregory Peck, or, you know,
Yeah.
this
William
is,
Holden.
this was
Yeah.
what William Holden, and William Holden actually
Yeah.
appears
And kind of talking
like
to
an
Rory
angel.
Calhoun.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I noticed, I've got a note at the back of my book, he's the same age as Don Draper.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, that's so
Very
great.
Mad Men.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very Mad
And he's
Men.
also, like Don Draper, a person who was made by the Korean War. Like that
Right.
his life is, you know, he said that he was never, I don't know if he said he was never happier or life was never more real when he was looking at that bush in
Well,
Korea.
he says that's when the idea of the search
Yeah.
occurred to him.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What's the search? What's the search all about?
The book is about the search. There's no doubt. Search with a capital S. I mean, you know, looking at what how do we know who we are? How do we define ourselves in relation to other people that we love or don't love? What's our relationship to desire, consumption, place? Such evocative incantations of New Orleans and Chicago. But back to the search. What would you say about the search?
I guess meaning in what seems like a very meaningless world. I guess you could say a kind of God-shaped hole inside of him that needs to be filled by something. And in that sense, he's maybe kind of found it from the beginning, knowing that he's searching for it, but now he finds it in all these kind of mediated non authenticity. I think, like, what's real, what's really authentic, and you know, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know enough about Kierkegaard to like compare it, but it does seem to me like almost Kierkegaardian that Kierkegaard is a trickster, and he's like, oh, do this and do that, and then you're like, and then you get farther in the essay and you realize he didn't really want you to do any of that. It's just all
Never mind.
and like when I read it this time, you know, as a 65-year-old man, I was just like, oh, none of this stuff makes any sense. This is bullshit. It's like total bullshit. And then he gets to the end of the book and he kind of like embraces this faith, not unlike his dying brother, you know, where it's just like, just do what you're told to do. You know what I mean? Just
be good.
Yeah, just be good, and like, you know, be nice to the kids and marry Kate because she needs you, and go be a doctor because that's like probably more useful than being a stockbroker. But what surprised me in this reading was that I didn't believe any of it. Like I thought he was this fool, and that you know, and the, you know, like the Kierkegaard quote at the beginning, you know, like what is it? The worst kind of despair is the despair that doesn't know it's despair,
Right.
You know, and
Yeah, it is. The specific character of despair is precisely this. It is unaware of being despair.
yeah, and I see all that. I see all that running around and all this investigation and all of his high philosophical thought as just a terrified young man, and that doesn't know he's terrified. And yeah, I always think about this like, you know, I'm a member of a recovery program, which shall remain nameless. And when people come into that recovery program, and they often come in like with like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and then I'll do this, and then everything will be okay. And if you've been around for a while, you realize we actually have a name for it. We call it changing deck chairs on the Titanic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we used to always say in California, we'd always say, oh yeah. Little running, little racquetball, you'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And that's the thing with Binx, is that Binx is like, he has no idea how screwed he is. But I think Percy knows how screwed he is.
So he seems to be, his search seems to be part of a, I don't know if rebellion is the right word, but it certainly is against the, what he calls the everydayness. What is the everydayness?
That's a complicated one because I mean I think that everydayness at times feels like sleepwalking, like not really knowing what what's real. And then toward the end, I think the everydayness is he realizes the search. That's what the search
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
is. And what is the other word he uses?
Malaise.
Malaise. The malaise is kind of different. I mean, the malaise is like the sense of nothing means anything.
Yeah. Is that within him, do you think, or is that exterior to him? Are those, is that different from the everydayness in that way?
I love that question because I am obsessed with when this was written. So it must have been, he must have been actually writing it in what, 58,
The 50s,
59.
Right. Yep.
And the post-war rush, everyone's getting into plastics and women are popping, barbiturates and it's the Mad Men time, right? And so there are lots of external factors of potential new meaninglessness. But it's within him, I suppose, is where it begins.
And it's just post World War II as well. And that just, that created a question about what people are and what we're for and what we're capable of and how we should live that were just stunningly difficult, I think. And so I felt that like all the way through here too, like, that sense of recent history kind of weighing on him because Percy didn't actually go to Korea, right?
He's a generation older.
Right.
He was in the sanitarium for TB. He basically caught tuberculosis during his residency
from cadavers.
Yeah, and then he was in, and he was able to
Thank
skip.
you for that detail.
You're welcome.
He was able to skip World War II because he was in the sanitarium.
So there, yeah, it is kind of it has that sense of World War II and what.
And I think, doesn't the character say that the only time he escaped everydayness is when he was lying in a ditch during the war?
Lying under the bush with a hole in his shoulder.
Mm-hmm. And that's what is the
Kate? That's what Kate.
That's
did
what
too.
Kate says too. After the big accident, it's like the only time you ever feel, that a person is real is during times of illness, disaster, something like that.
Yeah,
and
she said that was the happiest time of her life.
And so many of those soldiers coming back from, seeing the most horrific things would say something similar, like it made things seem real.
That's how they knew they were alive.
That's how they knew they were
assuming they weren't dead.
Yeah, all that stuff is like, especially in this reading of the novel, I'm kind of like a minor expert on Walker Percy. And one of the things that I love about this book is that I can't quite grasp what's going on. And I do think that a lot of what Binx is doing, although it's grounded in Percy's reading of philosophy, particularly Kierkegaard, it's just like he's just throwing stuff at the wall to see if it'll stick, and it doesn't really ever amount to what he wants it to amount to, And when I was younger, I mean, I haven't read them as a middle-aged or old person, but I was always disappointed in the rest of Percy's novels because they became more straightforwardly philosophical. Whereas this one seemed like what was going on here seemed very mysterious to me.
How does it seem? Yeah.
What?
How does it seem now? If you're saying that in retrospect it's BS, How does it read to you? What is the value now then for you?
Oh, of this book?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I mean. I think it's like Kierkegaard. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Kierkegaard. I mean, it's like a trickster. I mean, it's like Binx is coming up with all this stuff, and as you watch him try to avoid the true horror of his life, which is, I believe, that he's been, jettisoned onto this ball of dirt without any real connection to God. It points up that real horror because he's like dealing with the sort of fake horror. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, all the things that he says about, consumerism and, the world and all that stuff he also feels the same way about his aunt's, sort of old world, like, noblesse oblige, we're a better class of person, almost verging on white supremacy. And he's like, oh, that's, he doesn't have any time for that either. And it's not because he thinks that there's anything wrong with it. It just doesn't solve his problem, which is that he's lost. He doesn't belong here. He doesn't belong here on this planet. I think that's what Percy would say.
Which, not to get too biographical with it, but his father died by suicide. His grandfather died by suicide. I'm sure the tuberculosis was played into just his whole mindset as well. Well, we can talk about Binx forever. I mean, it's hard to not talk about Binx, but let's talk about some of the other characters as well. How about Aunt Emily? What's Aunt Emily's place in the book?
She is the one who thinks the search can be solved intellectually through aesthetically, and so she is kind of juxtaposed, I think, with Binx, who doesn't think that. I mean, she sits there telling him the most incredibly horrible things, and about himself, and he just starts listening to the water in the pipes, and doesn't respond at all. So
what does she say? She's something like she's Catholic or Episcopalian by by birth or something, and she's Greek, right? and she's Buddhist by choice,
right? Yeah. So she thinks she can figure everything out that way, and so that's one. I mean, again, that's one of Kierkegaard's kind of steps of moving toward real, whatever sense of reality. Or something.
I mean, I think that essentially she is, like a lot of other people in the book, she's a comedic character.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
I don't see her that way though. I really admire her, and I think Binx does too. And it's interesting that at the end of the book, he just does everything she asked him to do. Mm-hmm. She said, just go be a doctor, go be a researcher, take care of Kate, you'll be fine. But
she's also decided that he is not like the last great member of this family. He's just like all the rest of them.
Right.
He's ordinary.
Yeah,
he's not a
ordinary.
Hero.
Right.
He's not a Greek hero. He's not, and he's wanted to see himself as a hero on a big search.
He's just a dude.
I mean, I just like, I always like her because I suspect that if she was in my life, I would just be like, just tell me what to do, and I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, Binx liked her.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Speaking of telling one what to do, I would love to talk about Kate.
Yeah.
And Kate, in contrast to the other women who kind of walk through this novel, I admit I had fantasies of what if this novel were written from Kate's perspective or Sharon's perspective. Sharon, the secretary with the golden thighs.
Right. The latest secretary.
The latest secretary.
Right.
After Linda, after
Marcia.
Uh-huh.
I love, though, that Kate got a lot more credit, I think, for her own perhaps confusing philosophical explorations, combined with perhaps mental illness mixed in there, and some pills. But I love that Binx is able to really see into her motives, even maybe predict her behavior and responses and emotions. I did love their connection. I hope that's fair.
He's weirdly very accepting of her, and although the book ends with him being the one that's giving her the directions, it's they seem, there's a parody there. You know what I mean? It's like he's following directions, she's following directions. They're just both trying to get through the day.
Well, and how is he different,
so
Dan?
interesting.
How is how Binx treats Kate different from how Sam treats Kate?
I never think that much about Sam.
He's not that big a character.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but
he
it's like,
seems important.
yeah, Sam's like, Sam seems to be like, I mean, Sam's a writer, right?
Yeah.
And he's all those novelists that I don't have any time for. You know what I mean? He's just like, he's an American, and we're going to go, we're going to get publish a novel every 3 years, and fight against, and Binx is like, I don't have any clue what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
These are not the problems that I can solve,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's totally escaped from anything that's real or difficult. It's like he is like, I am a hero.
Yeah. I mean, he seems like a comedic character to me.
He does.
Yeah.
I love that. Actually, I never made that connection. Well, I did, but I didn't understand it as to how, Aunt Emily tells him what to do, and he finally accepts that is his duty. This is his community. This is, I'll never know the madness that is this world, except by, ritual and duty and whatever. And it's like he sort of learned that, and now Kate asks him for the same thing, and he says, "Yes, I will. I'll tell you. I'll keep you from the despair of having to make decisions. Like we're all anxious because we constantly have to make decisions, and that cuts everything else out of your life. Which is, I guess, one of the reasons it felt kind of gray and sad to me at first, till I realized, no, that actually makes you happy. Is like realizing that you don't have infinite choices, and no.
But is there anything to be said for the journey of trying to find liberation? I mean, is that, I hate to throw all that away.
I know.
We spend so much of the book, on that ocean with a boat bobbing up and down looking for that liberation.
And I always thought that the liberation would come from perception, like, again, that's a kind of Cather thing, that the miracles of the church are from your perception being made finer so you can see what's there around you always. So whenever Binx stops and looks at something really carefully, I think, yes, you're seeing the miracle. And then, I don't know. I'm not sure why he changes into that. Why he changes. What happens? Except that it's Ash Wednesday and he sees people come out of church, and
I think all that stuff is important, for me, the drama of the book, and maybe I'm mapping my own experience on this too much, is to watch him try everything that he can think of, and then when he exhausts all that, he turns to God. I mean, he never really actually turns to God, but it's like, I mean, Percy said so many wonderful things. Is it in this book or in an essay where Percy says, the question's not what we do if the bomb drops. The question is what we do if the bomb doesn't drop.
It's in this book. Yeah.
And it's like, to me, that's like, I think about that like every week.
And
for
what
the
does
last
that mean, Dan?
It means that the crisis, and again, this is where it's it's hard to talk to other people because it's like, I think maybe it's just me, you know what I mean?
No.
But
It's not.
it's like the crisis of being human is inherent in every moment of being human. And that things like atomic bombs are just a distraction from the real horror, which is to be alone, as Percy says, alone in the cosmos, to be alone without a God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that you know, when you get to the point where you accept that about yourself, that's when you get access to God. When you get to the point where you accept that there's no way out, that's when God fills the void. And
The God-shaped hole.
yeah,
Right.
Mm-hmm. Why isn't there a more direct statement about Binx coming to God? I mean,
That would change it into, it would no longer be mysterious. It would be an allegory. And he comes pretty close to it when he looks at the man coming out with the ashes. He's a black man and you can't tell where, the ashes start and stop. And he wonders, this, on this day, did he, it's one of the last lines in the book, did he, come here for ashes because it was part of the business of living? It's a ritual. It's what you do.
Yeah, he says,
or did he come here because he really found God? And then, you want to read it?
Yeah, he says, when he gets in his Mercury, he does not leave immediately, but sits looking down at something on the seat beside him. A sample case, an insurance manual, which is what Binx would think he would look down for. I watch him closely in the rearview mirror. It is impossible to say why he is here. Is it part and parcel of the complex business of coming up in the world? Or is it because he believes that God himself is present here at the corner of Elysian Fields and Bon Enfants? Or is he here for both reasons, through some dim, dazzling trick of grace, coming for the one and receiving the other as God's own importune bonus? It is impossible to say. Those are the last words before the epilogue.
It is impossible
well,
to say.
I mean, it's funny because it's like I deal with this all the time in my own experience. Like you say, like if you were to say, I don't say this, but if you were to say to somebody, hey, you just have to accept that you're lonely in the universe and that you need God and everything will be okay. Like if someone accepts that that's the truth, they're more than likely to just go down some path. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, okay, all right, little running, little racquetball,
Right.
and what it really is,
maybe.
what it really is like you've beaten your head against the wall so many times that loneliness becomes real to you. And I think that Percy writes a lot about how he wanted to be a philosopher, and he was very frustrated with writing philosophical essays. He wanted something that would embody the concepts that he was talking about. And so I think for him to say, God is the answer would be just a lie.
Right. Because it would also be like a theory, or wasn't he really interested in like language too? Like,
Yeah.
So saying that, what does that mean? What does that mean? But yeah, it's the just like the night of infinite resignation or something, like I'm resigned to not knowing, but accepting the mystery or something. I don't know. It's not pretty.
No, it's not. No,
it's not a pretty
It's
thing.
not clean.
It's not clean. It's like,
it's
what you're saying.
no, it's
about
just it's a mess. I mean, and this is why, and that's yeah. I mean, a quote that lives with me all the time that Percy said, because he was a doctor, and he was a research scientist, the way that is described here. And Percy said, the scientific method can describe everything in the universe except for one thing, and that's the individual. And by the individual, I mean individual people and individual tomatoes. and
Tomatoes.
yeah, because science is about the mean. It's about the average. It's not about the thing itself. And Percy's like, if you're that thing itself, then the mean doesn't help you at all.
That prompts me to see what you all think of just the technical aspects of this book and just the writing itself and the incredible economy and this feeling I have that he was only telling us 50% of what he could have, and he made those choices as an artist. And lines that I love, like when people are eating crab legs, very New Orleans thing to do. He says the carcasses mount toward a naked light bulb. I mean, I got very taken with the power of perception. As you said, that for a while you thought maybe that was
That's
the
what's
saving
gonna
grace.
save him.
Yeah.
Cracking them with a beer bottle.
Yeah. There's so many lines that stopped me in my tracks. Just in terms of how sentences were constructed, how consciousness was described. And it kind of took me back to like the Mrs. Dalloway feeling, like an attempt at describing consciousness and also every certain thing, like a tomato or a crab leg.
Well, I want to just touch on a couple of other characters too, and there are Black people all over this novel, beginning with Mercer. What is Mercer's role in the novel? He's such an interesting character at this time.
This is one of the things that I worry about. I mean, I love Mercer and I think that Percy and Binx just vastly admire him for.
But he's kind of a man out of time.
Well, I mean, he's a guy like Percy in his essays. Percy talks a lot about African American people and how in the South, in the middle of all the horror, they kind of figured out a way to be, and that he thought that they had a better grasp on how to live than African Americans in the North. I don't know how I feel about that, but I still sort of think that he's describing something interesting, right? And Mercer's just this guy that's like, it's just like the ant has a place for him, so he's going to fill that place, and he's going to play this game. You know what I mean? And Binx is just like, bravo, a chef's kiss.
Yeah.
He's also very smart. I mean, I feel like Binx sees him maybe in an individual way, like and that's the problem he has with his secretaries. It doesn't matter; they're completely interchangeable. When one woman isn't there, he can call upstairs and say, "Hey, you want to go out with me instead?" And but I don't know. I feel like he sees Mercer and he sees the man in the last image in the book. I don't know.
Would it be
I mean, it's the
difficult
South. It's New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's
And it's 1950s. Would it be difficult to teach this today because of race issues or even issues with the women characters? Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? It might be, but it's so rich and it's so interesting, and it brings up all the questions you want to talk about in terms of race and women. That I think it would be a great book to teach in about reality being mediated and what's real. And I don't know.
I was very sensitive to that because I was terrified I was going to just get ambushed at this podcast and people are going to be like,
so funny.
This is a horrible book and I hate everything about it. And so I was, so in this reading, I was super sensitive, and I mean, maybe I'm just too in love with Walker Percy still, but I thought it held up really well.
Yeah.
Even like the women, I mean, he seems the authorial intelligence particularly, but also Binx seems very aware of what's going on here.
Yeah.
And he, he knows when he's talking to Kate that he's talking to an equal, and I don't, his attitude towards his secretaries is a little depraved, but again, it's like it, I don't think that Mad Men is as good as this book, but it's a little like Don, Don's an asshole, but when Peggy comes up and starts showing promise, he's the one person there that says, this is a copywriter. We need to encourage her. You know what I mean?
And the women are pretty, like Sharon. I mean, she's meeting somebody else. She's
She's playing the game.
She's cool to him.
She has his number.
She's got his number, and so again, it's like the authorial presence knows that she has his number, and shows her that way,
which isn't in itself is so modern and so exciting to see that Percy was thinking in those terms in 1959.
Yeah. Well, speaking of modern, I mean, sometimes this book is cited as the first contemporary novel. I mean, there's a podcast I love called The History of Rock Music in 500 Songs. And the thing that the guy says about that throughout that podcast is there's no first anything. So we can say that if we want. But what do people mean when they call this the first contemporary novel?
I don't know. Maybe that kind of existential dread that then became, common, and it's irony. It's kind of ironic detachment, maybe.
It's negative capability.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, yeah.
I'm not sure that I agree that it is the first, because if you think about those other books that came out the same year, I mean, there's Catch-22. And so it's one of those things that don't mean anything.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the ending, which we have a little bit. Is it a happy ending? Is Binx in a good place at the end of this? Dan?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think he's in a good place. I mean, the authenticity of his relationship with Lonnie, the twisted authenticity of his relationship with Kate, the fact that he's come to some peaceful resolution with his aunt. He's just going to do what she says. I mean, I just don't. I don't think he's going to live a really good life being a stockbroker. I think that that being a scientist suits him better. And if he was one of my friends, I'd say, just stop searching in your life and start searching for microbes or something. You know what I mean? Don't you're crazy. Put your craziness into coming up with something to help people. I like the way it ends.
I was quite surprised. Yeah. I mean, as I said, I was with him on the journey, on the search, but this is where it led. Okay.
I kept thinking that I would love to still be 40, and I'm 75 for those of you who can't see me.
Wow.
But I would love to still think that there are infinite possibilities and lots of choices, and that I'm the hero of my life, and that I can do this and that. And then I started thinking, but I'm really a lot happier at 75. And, in a weird way, it's kind of more like grounded, or, and so I don't know, happy, maybe that's not what you want. You want to be able to not kill yourself, and keep Kate from not killing herself, and heal people as individuals. You probably wouldn't have been liked research as much, because at least as if you're a doctor, you have to kind of look at your particular illness or, try to see you. I don't know.
For
So,
the record, Susan, I think you are the hero of your own life. I'm going to say that as a reader, reader of
it
your
is
you might be the
not
hero of my
true.
life.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I don't think it's as dark as you say. It doesn't seem dark to me. But and a guy that like marries a lovely, bright woman and embarks on a strenuous career after just basically going to the movies and
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I don't think it's that dark, but it's dark in the sense that that. I mean, again, I'm just like full of Walker Percy quotes. At one point in the self-interview, they said, well, explain to me your weird attachment to the Catholic Church, and he says, what do you mean? And they says, well, it's a mess and so many scandals and so much. And he goes, yeah. Like, he's like, what else should it be? Do you know what I mean? It's a human institution. I mean, that's the way everything is. And that kind of like acceptance of what it's like to be a person in the world seems to me to be very freeing.
And relieving. I feel like there's a great sense of relief.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming to the end here. I've not been a good steward of our time. And we could talk about this for another hour and a half, I'm sure. But how do we think this is held up after all this time? And would we recommend it to our friends to read, Anne?
I would not recommend someone to read it if they're not wide awake. I made the mistake of trying to read this, before bedtime, and
Yeah, always a bad idea.
you need a full, fresh brain, and then it will reveal itself to you.
Yep, Susan?
I would definitely recommend it and read it at different points in your life as well. And then go visit New Orleans and read it.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Yeah.
Walk the streets.
Walk the streets where everything is, Elysian Fields.
Yeah, Dan?
Oh, I loved it. I just never, I'm shocked that I enjoyed it as much as I did this time, and that I saw it with, I'm like, I'm twice as old as this guy, and he delights me in his cluelessness and his, heroism as well. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's real heroism.
Yeah.
It's not movie heroism.
Interesting.
Love
So,
that.
well, okay then. I think I agree. I would recommend it for sure, and definitely read it with your eyes open, not when you're falling asleep. Well, let's talk about maybe some other things we might recommend. Dan, I don't know if you have another recommendation, but what other Walker Percy should we read?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, do you have a minute for my?
Yeah.
But so the story the narrative that I had about Walker Percy was that in some ways it was a sad narrative, although I loved everything that he did in his life, is because he wrote this book as a struggling, like a person that was just working for an editor at FSG and not a lot of prospects, and the editor put him through the tortures of the damned. Made him revise like 16 times more than he wanted to revise it. Like, Percy seriously considered telling the book. Just was like, I'm not doing it again. And I think it resulted in his best book. And then that there was this, he was the National Book Award winner after that. And it didn't even occur to anybody to like put him through the tortures of the damned. And it seemed always sad to me. You know what I mean? This shouldn't be his best book. But what was the question?
Is it, well, first of all, do you have another recommendation for
I think his
listeners?
essays are wonderful if you can overlook the anti-abortion stuff, which comes with being the kind of Catholic he was. I think that reading that self-interview in Esquire is just like amazing. The way that he talks about contemporary society and our yearning for something bigger. He's always very dangerous to me because he's one of those intellectuals that makes me think it's safe to be a Catholic again. And then after I think about it a little bit, I go, no. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Who else has something they might recommend?
I remember being hit really hard by Winesburg, Ohio. Do I have the title right?
Uh-huh.
In terms of a very modern description of consciousness. It's been a while. I need to go revisit. But it hit me in a similar way in terms of it was a wake-up call for a wake-up call.
Thanks, Anne. Susan, anything?
Well, I mean, because we're thinking about this book, I guess maybe Death Comes for the Archbishop, which is more that sparkling kind of Catholicism
Yeah.
that always made me
I
feel
actually
like,
have that sitting on my
you
shelf
know,
at home.
that it's like, you know, grace is there in nature. All you have to do is see it. And which is way, way simplistic, but kind of comforting if you've never been a Catholic. Anyway, it's interesting to compare. And O'Connor, the collected stories, again. Or how about,
Please.
Anne Rice, Interview with a Vampire.
Really?
If you
New
if you
Orleans.
want more New Orleans and kind of, creepy
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Creepy New Orleans.
Good one. Well, we're all kind of keeping it classic here. So, you know, we had a huge snowfall a couple weeks ago and a couple weeks of below freezing temperatures, and getting around hasn't been real easy. And it just seemed like a time for some Edith Wharton.
Oh, yeah.
And I hadn't read The House of Mirth in a long time, and it was just the perfect novel to get snowed in with. And it was interesting because the heroine, Lily Bart, was the same age as Binx Bolling in that book. So she was right at the edge of spinsterhood. And if you've ever seen the movie, you can't help but picture her as Gillian Anderson. And I think I told Susan, I think just like The Age of Innocence, the movies are good, but I don't think they get how funny Edith Wharton is.
Yeah.
She's really funny.
Has anyone ever tried to make a movie out of The Moviegoer?
Yes.
Yes, Tim Robbins.
Uh-huh.
Is it good?
No, he didn't make a movie.
Didn't make it.
Oh,
it,
he
it
tried.
Never, it never
I get it.
happened.
No, he wrote. In fact,
get it.
I was after I read this, I thought I'm going to see if I could get a hold of him and see if he'll. I mean, he must be proud of the screenplay. He wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what it looks like.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like see, I missed that we were recommending books. Can I recommend a book?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Another book. Again, one of my favorite books of all time is James Land by Michelle Honeywell, and it's a very it takes on similar things, but it's more about community. It's like how do you live your life among people? Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah.
And it's interspersed with a novel that one of the characters is writing about the end of William James's life. That's why it's called James Land. Have you read that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah. That sounds great. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody. And that is it for us. Remember, you can stream Radio Free Book Club practically anywhere you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to subscribe to the Radio Free Book Club Substack as well. So for Susan Neville, Dan Barden, Ann Laker, and all the members of Radio Free Book Club, I'm Ken Honeywell. Thanks for listening. And join us next month when we take on a new book by a classic author, Thomas Pynchon's Shadow Ticket. We hope you'll join us. Until then, read a book.